The fans are getting a mite riled up as WE win Game 2 and bring us to a Game 3, chasing down the second opportunity for WE to take a bow in front of those hometown crowds. Because again, this is a team that is 2-10 right now. Taking a victory would give them their second chance to bow in front of the home crowd. And that's something that WE desperately need right now. Because again, they're 2-10. Bottom of the standings for their conference, trying to chase down that playoff spot.
So falling far in expectations, and for me, going into this split, I was like, yeah, you know what? They will not do well. But I didn't expect it would be 2-10 not well. That's a lot of not well.
It's a lot of not well.
So for them, yeah, being able to take the set is great. I remember speaking to Clement coming into this. He expected them to be the high performers of cross-conference play, that they can get it together and start taking victories. And sure, they took games. They didn't take sets. Taking this set in front of their crowd, not those crowds, those are Vici. Those are Vici crowds in Xi'an. They're not talking about them.
Yeah.
The rest of the audience, they need them behind them.
I think that Vici should take heed to those crowds, though, especially the sign saying, Vici Gaming, cheer up. They have to keep a positive mental attitude if they want to try to take wins and get themselves some growth before the standings, before playoffs themselves lock them out. Because this is really tough, and every single game they lose, every loss they suffer, they are one step closer to being locked away from that final playoff spot in their conference. It's still possible. Yes, it's a pipe dream, but it's still possible.
And for them, they must be thinking about that as the carrot dangling, of course, to take the wins. And while as losses start piling up, for them, it's like there's still a dream that we can achieve this, and our scrims might be alluding that we could do that. If they lose to this in this series versus WE, that's when those hopes start to get crushed. They can't take the 7th place team in the opposite conference. You can never expect to do the same when you're going to your own conference. When cross conference is completed, to take down IG, RNG, like I can keep naming them. That's incredibly difficult, and I wouldn't expect it. And so for Vici, start small, worry about how you play the games before, you know, whether they're a win or not.
And best case scenario, if JD take this win here and are able to start taking wins in their own conference, they would need to beat Suning, LGD, and BLG, and then take a single win off of either IG, RNG, or JD just to tie it up. So it's a long journey for them. They would have to take at least 4 games, 4 times as many as the ones that they've won currently. But that being said, we've gotten into picks and bans. WE find themselves back on blue side. We've got ourselves another very high priority Rakan from Team WE and taken away from Shintai.
So for Shintai to immediately go towards the Alistar, kind of neutralize the lane a little bit, makes it so Rakan doesn't find easy ways to jump in, easy headbutt, or at least easy pulverize into headbutt into tower, so that's the expectation here. So immediately you just see a very passive bottom lane, at the very least from WE.
And we do see quick rotations from WE as Ezreal is picked up for Mystic, taken away from Martin, and Coco gets taken off of that rise as Xie looks for counter pick. That does mean Coco gets the chance to find a counter himself. Looking at the Yasuo and Zoe.
Definitely not Yasuo into Rise. Your band, that would not be a good matchup. Not good at all. So Zoe makes a lot more sense.
Banned from trying it. But it is the Zoe that is the pickup as we now look towards the next 2 bans. Again, top lane falling down to the wayside as WE very early focus to the bottom lane. Almost EDG-esque in that very early draft.
I wonder if Vici, they're starting to nail down Condi's picks. Now, Condi in the past, when he's found himself in this situation, can just rely on a Lee Sin pick, but in this case, wouldn't make too much sense. He still has Xin Zhao available, so he gets the gank pressure off of the Rise pick. Wonder what's that, if he goes towards that. Maybe Graves. He does like Graves quite a bit here, so in this situation, Graves would make sense that you can try and pick up a tank in the top lane to at least accentuate that.
See what the next one is going to be. It's actually Gragas, banned away from 957 and Condi, as that is a flex between the two. But we're looking for a strong performance from Condi this game, as he got found by Swift, pathed, and out-ganked throughout the course of that early game. And while Vici did inevitably end up losing a few team fights and dropping the game, controlling the early game is something that has been a huge priority for both of these teams in Game 1 and Game 2, though it was their lack of ability to close that out that really stymied that.
But Condi never wants to find himself in that position again. What happened in Game 2 cannot happen in Game 3 for him. And if he feels like, they get the early game lead, it should be an easy win for them. Didn't happen in game 1, but Bakandi finding himself an early ganking jungler. Remember, he was a jungler that popularized and started playing Ezreal jungle really early on the last split, summer split, I suppose. So for him, picking up Ezreal, I would say, sure, you expect that it's going to be Mystic, but it's still possible in this meta.
There's a chance. There's always a chance that we see the flex, as Kai'Sa is the lock-in for Martin. WE, if they want to show that flex, now is the time to do it, as we're going to see 957 have to blind pick his top lane, and we're also looking for Kandi to round out his own pick in the jungle, as Sejuani is locked in.
Strong front to back. Just now it's all on 957's pick here. I don't expect the Rise to be taken by him. Makes more sense that Shea would have it for himself.
Orin, Mundo, Gnar. Ooh, the Gnar is a classic.
Go-to.
It's a massive signature champion for 957.
Allows him to split. And I wonder if Vici ends up picking up a stronger team fighter so they can match Gnar's team fight and say we just have better tank statistics, or match him in splitting. Quinn has been picked up once by Audi before, and so I think he picked up an Ignite Flash Quinn. So that's an option if he wants to go against it.
Yasuo is the champion of choice. You can hear the crowd as well, as Audi saying, give me the carry, let me do it. As the Vici fans in the crowd are just as surprised to see that locked in here, as we've got ourselves some early game with the Zoe Yasuo, some strong late game scaling with the Kai'Sa. Vici set themselves up well, and WE do the same as we get ready for this game 3.
Yeah, WE definitely has flexibility in their composition. Movement speed from the Rise, mobility of the Ezreal, split push, I guess, versatility of the Gnar. They can choose to team fight or split, but as I say split, it's going to be mostly on Rise to do just that. So it would have been a 1-3-1, but if Gnar ever finds himself face to face with Yasuo, he ain't going to be happy.
Yeah.
So I think 1-4 is in order.
We'll see what that's going to be for Team WE as the coaches shake hands for the final time today in Xi'an, as WE, in front of their new fans, in front of their new arena, are hoping to take that bow at the end of this series and close it out against Vici Gaming, currently the worst team in the LPL at 1-11 in the standings. WE, a single win above them at 2-10, but still the fans come out in absolute droves to support these two teams. So we prepare to load onto the Rift for this final matchup between WE and Vici Gaming.
Storied organizations, both of them, so that's why the fans will come in. The largest home venue in China. So Xi'an getting packed time and again, while it can seat 1,800 come in droves, because that's how many tickets get sold. It's a fun fact on that venue. So for WE, get the win versus Vici. Bow to your fans and continue to improve. And for Vici, let's see if their individual players can style. Audi's on the Yasuo pick. Maybe he can make some highlight reels come true. I
mean, over the course of this series, we've seen constant talk between Audi and Swift in those player cams. So you can see 957 on that side. Vici, they're keeping that positive mental attitude. They are chasing down this victory as Audi. He had a bit of a smile and a laugh before we got into pick ban, but now we know why, as he gets the chance to counter pick. And here is Shintai and Missing, the two new supports for both of these organizations, living up to massive names.
And so hunger is what's going to be driving these players, as well as Martin, I would say. Because Martin, while not a rookie by any means, is someone that wants to prove a point that he's here to stay. Having a good performance early on, game 1, he wants to be able to double that, so when it comes down to a conversation between him and Snow, he comes out for the better. So for both of the supports, it's the same discussion, really. So real, I'd say, drive for all of these players to perform well in our final game.
Swift, the man of Team Vici, he's the one who's finally wrestled the reins of that org away from EasyHoon, who has been the previous primary starter for that team for so long. Now the team is built all around him, just like Newbie was before. Will he be able to take victories and command this new squad to victory? So far, the record says no, but this could be the squad that finally takes it.
And so, to your point, I mean, remember what happened in the last game. They played around Swift. He had that early game lead. That's something we want to see going into this game as well. But I mean, extra progression of having Coco on speed dial, so he can actually help him at all times, is what I want to see when they start to push around the Baron. I want to see one of these teams play Baron well. Just try, make the attempt.
WE, previously the team with the great fundamentals that went all the way to the World Semifinals, have shown they know how to play the vision around it, play the dance around it, but the execution was just so close to being able to succeed. Vici still obviously learning and practicing with this.
Of course, remember everybody out there, client crashing, so we're getting right back into it.
Yep.
That's why it's taking some time, but to your point about Vici trying to get it together, I really, and for me, looking at this young lineup, specifically Sintai, as you can see on the camera, I want to see him grow. I think from the players that they've been picking up, Yugon didn't have a good set, but picking both of those
he was
players
playing against Mouse and Rogue Warriors, and they camped the living heck out of it.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You'll remember that. You probably had nightmares that night.
Yeah, Yugon will remember that.
But I love seeing the fact that they're utilizing their developmental squads. Same thing for WE as they're bringing in Missing, 694 Celestial. So for them to be bringing up these members, they understand that they know their organization's mantra. They've been in the house for a long time, and they know that they're strong players. So it's not as difficult as bringing a player from solo queue, because they put in the work, they have good MO, and so for these players to come in should be a natural progression. So I wonder if Sintai is going to come in strong for our game 3.
Well, absolutely keep an eye on his performance. He was taking Recon in the first 2 games and got a couple of big quickness grand entrances to set up for some team fights. Maybe just looking for a bit more of a commanding fight in the late game to initiate for his team.
And so one thing I want to point out for Sintai is that he's actually been around for some time in the LDL. He's played on teams with Zoom, actually. Been on with Zoom for a long time. Had one moment where he's on Wanyu, if anybody remembers him, that was Kakao's team in the LSPL. So he's been around for a long time, building himself up, and so coming into an LPL stage for his first time, for him, I wonder if he's, it's interesting, because I wonder if he's, you know, nervous in this situation. What happened in the previous games where he just started the fight, even though sometimes it was questionable, I'm going to start casting that aside. I think it's not about that nervousness, it's just about synergy with him and his jungler. So that just makes it promising now, because he can be that drive to caveman as they move on towards these next few sets.
I mean, that's the hope. That's the same thing that we saw with Mystic as well, with Gentle and Imp sitting on the bench behind him. Perhaps that's the reason that we see Mystic putting out so much fire in that bottom lane, knowing that he's got the competition of a previous world champion and a very young and hungry rookie.
Yeah, I mean, what Mystic did coming off the bench was surprising, because he's always been an AD carry that's had a small pool, a champion pool, that is. So for him to have that drive to now pick up an Orianna, these mage bottom laners in a meta that really required you to have such an expansive pool, was, you could see the drive and push that he was put in. If he didn't have those champions, I don't think he was actually going to be able to show up, because Gentle was actually having good performances. Even with his performance, obviously not good enough to take wins, but in relation to each other,
good numbers,
he's having good numbers, and so for Mystic, coming out and differentiating himself from the rest was what made it so it was easy for him to bring him on.
So just to be clear with the folks at home, we are doing a redo of the pick ban. It's going to be the same 10 champions, the same 10 bans as we get back into this. Hopefully the players will get the chance to race through that as quick as possible, and we can load onto the Rift, start off this game 3 between WE and Vici. Because this music is jamming, it's getting me hyped, it's getting my blood pumping. But we're just sitting here.
I have a mini game, and I'm just trying to find when it loops back, because it goes back and back once again.
It's the volume. Listen to the volume. The volume tapers down, and then it tapers back up.
Okay, I'm going to have to listen to it in the back. It's one of those times
call you out for it.
Challenging people out there to kind of just listen to some of the songs, and they drive you in. WE has their own specific music that they come in. It's different than, of course, the ones in Shanghai, and I think Shanghai and Chengdu are actually fairly similar if you're about to get onto the Rift.
Oh, and the music has changed.
And
we're on the sequel track as we're about to get onto the Rift. WE are about to take on Vici. And just listen to how hyped it is. Now we're going. Now we're going. As the clients are loading up, we're getting the players on there as quick as we possibly can. Again, the audience in the crowd cheering them on for this game 3 as WE look for their 3rd victory in the LPL Summer Split, and Vici looking for their 2nd Let's hear it from the fans one more time for WE versus Vici Gaming. Do you think they just have a guy for the drums?
Oh yeah, I've seen the same guy every time.
It's just the same guy.
It's possible. I haven't seen the ones in the previous sets.
What a job. How do you put that on a resume?
I bang drums.
Like if you, like if on that guy's LinkedIn page, does it just say, I beat drums and yell?
I mean, I've seen worse on LinkedIn pages, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
People don't take that one too seriously.
Yeah, well, already we can see a bit of an invade to get some control over the river vision as Missing and Mystic step up to contest Martin and Shintai on the bottom side.
So Martin coming into this one, very defensive, going towards fleet footwork and cleanse in this lane. So he wants to find himself in, once again, like a team fights that we echo, but no real pressure in this lane. So he's trying to heal up the potential poke from Missing and Mystic. So interesting. I don't support it. I think he should just go press the attack.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of it. If you know you're going to be in a harass lane, that's something that I take. But then again, like you're saying, he's got the Alistar next to him to provide Triumph as well. And even taking the cleanse, so perhaps a very defensive setup from Martin as he's just playing the safe Kai'Sa instead of the risky Kai'Sa.
You saw what happened in game one when the poke was coming through. So recognizing that WE is a team that will try and dive you. It will happen, sometimes without reason. So he's just trying to play this one out safely.
And we did see Swift go from buff to Scuttle and then back into his own jungle. Condi looks like he's going buff Wolf and then perhaps that Scuttle, buff Wolf buff into Scuttle after. There is a bit of an opportunity for Swift if he wants to race over and try to contest that. As already we can see Mystic and Missing trying to take control of this lane very early on. Martin playing defensive, not getting the full effectiveness out of a Kathian Rain, means this wave is starting to stack up for Mystic and Missing. With push priority, that means that they could step into the river and try to contest.
And one thing to take note of, Martin has no potion here, while Mystic has two. One of them he was gifted based off his Klepto. So Mystic, in a longer lane setting, is actually much better off, and Martin's going to have to watch out here.
And Swift is actually able to make it to the Scuttle Crab before Condi, as the wave doesn't push in time. And that means Scuttle, double Scuttle secured by Vici. So massive setup as the wave gets pushed in. Good arcane shift back. Shintai will keep Mystic locked down, but already we're starting to see what happens when you get to counterpick a Yasuo into a Gnar.
Yeah, at the time he was 10 CS ahead, but that was a massive wave being pushed in. So you can really take a look at how Audi's using his Wind Wall. Now, of course, for the matchup, Wind Wall, the Q from Gnar, and that's how you take down a lot of his damage for about 20 seconds. But he's also, when he pushes up, he's been using Wind Wall for the wave, and challenging Gnar if he wants to pick up 2 minions or 3 minions to essentially walk past the Wind Wall, which will not happen. You will just lose the trade from doing that. So it's starting out much better. I would say it's pretty good from 957 so far, being that close in CS based off that alone. But as the lane goes on, it's going to be worse and worse.
Something is going to have to change. Condi might have to head up top to affect it, but Swift is actually roaming bottom. Martin and Shintai are there as Mystic steps up, trying to bait something perhaps as the wave is pushing away from Missing and Mystic. That Void Seeker will also hit, but already you can see Swift has started his recall. And with this wave pushing away, they don't want to risk it. Here they go. Vici trying to pull it forward. Mystic steps up. Frozen Domain. That's the arcane shift. He's still got the flash. Grand entrance prevents Martin from going in. Flash knockup. They're looking for Shintai. He's got his own flash. As Missing will dash under the turret.
So they get the flash from Mystic, and that one's important. They needed to focus on Mystic because they knew if they got Missing, Missing would just immediately whisk away towards Mystic's location. So it was a good call. Mystic doesn't have sums now. At least he just has his heal. Makes it easier for Vici to now look back bottom lane with an engage from Shintai.
Let's see if Swift decides to head back to follow up on that, as still double summoners are available from Martin and Shintai, though that Hex Flash could help. Condi going top for Audi. Oh, you can't dash through that one. Immediately flashing. I like that he tried it though. Mystic, whoa, looking for the outplay. Acathean Rain, the Ignite First Blood goes to missing.
They knew he was alone, that Alistar based. That's a massive wave, and you know what? Martin didn't want to leave it. So, easy dive. He was actually pretty close to getting the kill on towards Mystic, but played it well enough. And so now Martin is so far behind here.
That is 7 CS and the experience difference as the double tier team comp is set up from Team WE. They just walk it under. Ah, Flash Grand Entrance puts him under the turret.
I was wondering how that was executed. Missing, of course, missing his W. Unlucky, but still gets the kill. You can see how hard of a position Martin was in. For the execution was still that bad, but still, of course, netting them the kill.
That will set up that bottom lane as it's Tier and Cull out of the Ezreal. He just wants to get through this laning phase. And if he can pick up any kills off the back of it, the more the merrier. But already things looking a little bit dangerous. As Swift, he's been controlling the river pretty effectively for Vici, but he actually needs the support of his lanes to take this right now. Coco will push up into the mid and follow up to help him finish off this dragon. Even Martin's getting over there with Boots 2 rushed right away. Those Berserker Greaves to get him over to the dragon, and a quick emote as he secures it.
Help was definitely needed. While Ocean Dragon won't deal the most damage, the slow means that WE can try and contest him.
Yeah.
With him just getting damaged repeatedly, that's an easy chase. So, really good job calling in his adjacent lanes in that situation.
And that's Swift playing with those lanes. He's trying to open up a neutral advantage, though it is already 1,000 gold in favor of WE. Condi goes top to help neutralize 957, helps keep it even in CS as Xie gets that blue buff into the mid lane. And still things nice and slow as Condi, Swift is trying to set up as best he can on this Trundle for his team. I'm curious to see if he goes for tank Trundle once again in this game, as Swift is actually sneaking behind 957 right now.
I think he should in this situation. There's a lot of carries on his team. And also to another point, Trundle and Yasuo have been a great combination mid lane, now pulling that top. You'd expect Swift to come top lane just for that key Trundle pillar that will create the engage on the 957. 957 recognizes that, playing respectfully of it, but it's constant pressure that he's going to have to take, and you got to wonder what W is going to be doing as a response to it in the opposite side of the map.
Currently it's just a farm from Condi as he's trying to get level 6. That Glacial Storm makes it much easier for the Sejuani to affect those side lanes. But for now, it is just a constant farm fest as Mystic again takes control of this wave against Martin and pushes in. True Shot Barrage is going to do a lot of damage. Fleet Footwork only heals so much with this constant harass coming in wave after wave.
It's brutal. I mean, Biscuit and an extra potion for Ezreal, so he's not going to worry about it. In fact, they put them in dive range now.
Swift tries to head down bottom, but a ward was just placed over the wall. I'm not sure if that was spotted out by Vici as Swift decides to turn back to the Gromp instead. Even Condi is on this side of the map, just in case any action breaks out, as there's the trade. That's a little bit of damage from the Sleepy Trouble Bubble of Coco.
This is a little, of course, Coco wants to find a back timing. It might not be possible. She has full control in blue buff. So, gonna quickly push this one out. Be denied some experience. Now that's just one CS because it's gonna go on towards the cannon wave. Zoe should be able to pick that up.
Look at that, after pushing the wave, she is heading top right now. He's got Realm Warp. And Audi is under his turret as the wave comes in. 957 Flash Slam, pins him against the wall, lands the secondary stun, but the wind wall is able to go up. Audi gets behind it. He's still got the flash, dances around the wave, eats a late snare, but Xie flashes, and the barrel slam from 957 gets the kill.
Definitely needed to flash because the minion was right in front of him. If he was, wasn't diligent on it, if he didn't put in the work, didn't flash for that, then I think Audi could have turned it, at least got the kill on the Xie. Really well done there. Canceling out, CCing him when the knockup was available so that Audi didn't get any opportunity to get an ulti across. So he was waiting for it. He just wanted one Q to essentially either throw up the Gnar or the Rise. No options available.
That final Steel Tempest. He was stuck on Steel Wind Rising and couldn't get the Q3 to finally lock down Vici and try to turn that outplay around, but now it's a 2,000 gold advantage. 13 CS advantage for 957 as he makes his way back into the top lane, denying Audi even more CS by pushing all the way up to the turret, so that should make the lane a little bit easier for this Gnar. But Even in the bottom lane, we're seeing Mystic open up an advantage as he's 11 CS ahead of Martin's Kai'Sa and is continuing to scale up with the Manamune and that call.
Yeah, Martin evened it out a little bit in terms of how the lane was working. Shay's getting ganked here.
Yeah, there is no flash roam, but he does have the Realm Warp. Kandi comes through the save with the Glacial Storm, and Chie not able to take the Realm Warp as 957 teleports mid. And it's a good amount of damage with that Phage. Here comes Audi as well. But 957 just walks him around the far side, and the gank is dissuaded.
All right, but Audi's going to have teleport in about minutes time. Means that he'll have TP advantage. Don't know how he'll utilize it, but for now, it's just WE absorbing a gank and only having to use teleport to try and stop it from happening.
That certainly is going to slow them down just a bit, as Mystic and Missing are just constantly controlling this lane. Now 20 CS ahead, though that wave should even it out a bit more for Martin. But here's Swift finally trying to interact with those side lanes. Let's see if he managed to sneak into the middle brush. This 957 has no flash.
Smart from him, didn't get the reset on the boulder, because if he had, it would have been a great setup for Audi to then just get the knockup. He's gonna try for it now.
There he goes, looking for the boulder. That's the knockup from Audi, but still decides not to take that last breath in.
Should be more confident 957, knowing that it didn't happen. Here it is.
That's the pillar, immediately the last breath, but a quick bounce gets Gnar right over the top of that Yasuo and under his own turret.
Incredibly disciplined from 957. Even with all of that being a good hint that there's no one top lane, like Audi didn't follow up on his Q because he's like, I want to get the kill, so why would I go for this? Gets the Q. So 957 is like, maybe there's no one here. Wasn't the case though, so he ends up just jumping away.
And with Swift showing himself top in the constant push pressure of Missing and Mystic, they managed to bring a minion wave up to the turret, getting more and more damage onto it. This is without a Sheen. This is just the Manamune. And Mystic is completely dominating this lane.
It's every time they push in. Time a wave comes in and Kai'Sa has to just farm up, that she's getting chunked out in her own HP. And so losing a lot of minions, just being denied from that. The tower is so low, don't see how they end up holding it.
Swift is over here along with Coco. Kandi will spot this out. He's got the Glacial Storm. Shintai over the wall. Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Manages to hit, but that's maximum range. Battlestar for no follow-up, and Missing just dashes away as Kandi protects his lane and allows them to keep pushing up.
Yeah, protects them. They might be able to get the tower just based off that. And Rise gets a push mid lane. Everyone on WE gets a plus from that exchange.
And all it took was a little bit of communication between Mystic and Kandi. See how quickly that pays off. They push it forward. Is Missing going to stay here and split the gold? There he goes. Now he's backing away, and Mystic solo gold on first brick and denying that minion wave, plus another True Shot Barrage to push it in. Already, Vici have swapped over that Kai'Sa to the other side. They're not even worried about giving over this Ocean Dragon to Team WE because that does just even things up. Curious to see if WE do send that Ezreal Rakan top to match Martin and Shintai.
They should, especially with the one kill that 957 have. Put him on the bottom side of the map. It will empower him so he's not in a 2v1 situation.
It's also a long lane against the Yasuo.
Yep. Might hurt him. We'll see if that's the case, but he's been respectful thus far. And also you send Mystic Missing topside, and you can then challenge for top lane turret. Just empower Mystic at this point. I mean, he's been doing so damn well when he's able to push up in tower. Please base again. Thank you.
There he goes. Whoops.
I've done that a few times.
That caster minion got an attack onto him.
Sometimes you're window shopping so quickly and you forget that. You're like, wait a minute, but actually stopped.
Why am I not at base?
Yeah.
This has been 15 seconds.
I'm sad.
But now Vici, they're trying to set up a bit of a Fnatic brush, denying some of the vision of Team WE. Controlling that top side of the map as an attempt to counter out the Ezreal Rakan that is snowballing so aggressively because it's 10 stacks left on that call. Sheen has now been picked up by Mystic, and while the Manamune is still stacking up, already you can see the damage that he's starting to do. Coco and Swift will try to make something happen of it though, as they're looking for Kandi in his own jungle. They've now spotted him out, and Vici aren't able to make anything happen. Even Chie is there to help protect his jungle.
Yeah, they don't have eyes on Chie. They should have a good idea that he's there, not showing up through the mid lane. So for Zoe, she wants to find opportunity to roam topside and help out her dual lane, but it's not going to happen if Chie is on point, essentially never being in lane. You would always get a shove into the lane and then would start hiding topside and out of vision. So Coco has to be more active here.
Really slowing things down. Coco is trying to hunt around the map and open things up, but Swift, he's setting up the vision. Over the wall, Swift, ooh, gets the smite. Kandi with the old S move, stops and doesn't get tagged by the Void Seeker follow-up from Martin. But missed that Gromp camp, so still we're seeing Swift contest the jungle of Team WE as best he can, but that bottom lane, it's already lost pretty aggressively, and now it's starting to spill over as Condi is doing everything he can to protect it. That's the pillar, but he makes it over the wall. Plasma stacks will be applied, but Martin decides not to follow up as Mystic keeps on sweeping out ward after ward. Keep that Ezreal safe and buy time for it to scale up.
Yeah, it's been interesting how much pressure Swift has put topside to help his bottom lane out. Ends up getting a push so they can finally finish up their Storm Razors. So a pretty good power spike. Remember, they're going up against the armor of an Iceborne Gauntlet, so it may not be too influential as of yet. We'll have to see when they end up going into the dual lane. Issue is, yeah, sure, Kai'Sa has the damage, but whether she can place it or not because of the poke and distance being created, that's the worry.
That's another story entirely. It's WE, they just turn on to the Rift Herald. Ooh, they need to finish it off. There's the Paddle Star, big hit onto Condi. Now they need to stand on the buff and pick it up themselves. It's Shintai. He's playing bodyguard to it. Who's going to step up? Who thinks they can take it? 957 is on the way. It's getting close to expiring now. Shie eats a Paddle Star. The longer this goes on, no! Oh. They're going for the all-in onto Coco. Realm Warp to get themselves into the back line. Condi split from his team. They found Shintai in the front. He tries to protect himself, but cannot. Coco picks up the ultimate. Audi with the two-man knockup. Looking for 957. Mystic gets the stun, but 957 with a three-man answers. Leaping away, and Vici are trying to chase this down. Mystic is still firing across. He's got the mana. He's got the damage. He gets one. He gets two. They're chasing it down. Martin goes low. The double kill, the triple kill for Mystic. Oh, and the buff expires as they win the fight.
Waving the white flag. That's insane. It was just the confidence of Condi just jumping in saying, I understand the situation we're in. Just create space for Mystic to fire off. 3-0 and 3. Mystic is massive so far in this game.
Here we can see the fight again. It all starts by fighting over that buff. Coco jukes it back out, but Vici won it anyways.
That was a great wind wall, by the way. Audi placing the wind wall saved them a good amount of HP to start the fight. It's the only reason why Vici looked so good to start it off. And then Martin repositioning. But the issue is that even with the cleanse, lost a lot of damage. Look at Mystic firing at 100% HP. Condi jumps in just knowing that the Triumph will proc with Mystic if he can follow up with a kill. He does, they win the fight.
And again, that was Swift and Audi looking for the combination. They got the pillar onto Mystic, got the last breath on top of it, but with Martin unable to contribute, with Coco unable to land any Paddle Stars in that duration. Like you said, Mystic got himself a Triumph stack, healed back up to 100%, and was able to fire across from the back line. And while Vici deny the Rift Herald buff to WE, they lose an ace in the process, making that a 303 Ezreal, a 204 Rise, and a 104 Gnar. That's an almost perfect kill distribution for WE in terms of priority. I'm not sure if that's worth it, Raz. Not sure if that's worth it at all.
They were ambitious, and I think they were rightfully confident in how they'd play it out if Audi came in first, and I think that Audi played the fight well. Ultimately, they just didn't have enough damage to back them up. Remember, Martin went towards quite a scaling build, so he had to sustain, but no damage to really follow up. So it was upsetting that going front to back should be in their favor, but it was just a lot being dumped on because Coco had to reposition, and Martin didn't have the proper damage to follow up. So I mean, Mystic and CA are flying sky high now.
Yeah, here's the spillover from that. The top tier 1 gets taken, a Swift. Again, he's such an intelligent jungler. Invading in and taking the red buff as the top tier 1 is broken down by WE on the opposite side. That means mid is temporarily undefended. If only WE had a Herald to break that turret down. As Mystic eats a Paddle Star, that's the ramifications of getting hit by those abilities. But he does have a Bilgewater Cutlass and is healing himself up, and that tier stacking to buy more time.
But you gotta be afraid now if you're WE, how you close this game is that, yeah, sure, mid lane tower is pretty low, but it's the Zoe sitting right in front of you. And so you need people to walk up for you, and it would have to be Condi. So a lot of this is waiting on Condi to walk up with the team. So when you can walk up to the tower, Mystic could start poking at the Coco, I suppose. You can start poking at Coco and see if you can push him off the tower and start chipping at it.
Now with the recall Vici just made in the mid lane, that is going to leave it undefended, but instead of chasing it down, WE turn to the Ocean Dragon as Condi is going to pick that up along with some help from 957, and WE look for a back instead. But still, like you said, we see some big scaling from WE as Blade of the Ruined King is finished. That's a 3-item Ezreal 20 minutes into the game.
And he's on his 4th tier.
It's real big.
He's getting to a point where you have to be able to deal with him. I don't know how you will. Extra damage is going to be getting off his Q once he finishes off that extra tier fill. Oh, here we go.
And Xie looking for a little bit more. That's the empowered spell flex damage.
Shintai did not want to use his ult. Especially with Baron coming up. He didn't want to nullify some of the damage, so he's going to have to base, as you see here.
That will definitely slow things down, as now it's a 1-3-1 setup from Team WE. They've got 957 in the bottom lane, Xie up top, while Mystic is hammering down onto the turret mid.
They've been in this position before, Dom.
Ah!
What happened there, Dom?
You're right!
What happened?
Uh-oh, that bubble landed. Maximum range from Missing as he gets away from the Sleepy Trouble bubble.
At least this time, Swift can't jump in, trying to secure it with a Sheen. He still can chomp at it, so that's the same thing you can do with Middle and Trundle, but I'm just saying.
Not quite the same level of effectiveness, though. Yep. As Coco. Oh, that one hurts. And that was even the Ignite used as well, though Mystic will step forward onto Coco. True Shot Barrage and the Glacial Storm. He cleanses out, but the mid-tier 1 only defended by Swift. He tries to clear out the minion wave, but can't make it. Finally, it pays off. Not quite the conventional way of breaking the Zoe, but
dead.
It did work.
It's fun because, remember, the risk of taking the path right of the tower to dodge out, it's a very enclosed space.
Yeah.
So for Mystic, he didn't believe he would take that path. In fact, he missed his Q.
Yeah.
And if he had aimed for it, would have been the kill almost certainly. So Coco, he's sweating, but he has his flash up, so he probably just would have used flash in that situation. He ends up losing the tower anyways, and the focus will now turn towards the Baron buff.
We've seen this play before from Team WE, like you said, in that game 1. The Ezreal is scaling up. He's doing some damage. They've got that Rise scaling up to start setting vision around this Baron and taking control of the map. But this time they've got the double Ocean, and the next dragon is another Infernal. That said, there's a lot of scaling from Vici on the other side. The Kaisa, the Yasuo. If the game goes on long enough.
And the Trundle Pillar works that much stronger as you get longer in the game, and Zoe is going to be dishing out a lot of damage, so Zoe Trundle is going to be a great combination to see. We'll see how Shintai is creative in these fights. That being said, kicks off Swift.
Sleepy Trouble Bubble connects with Missing, as Xie takes a bit of AoE from that, as they're again starting to fight over vision around this Baron buff. And still, Vici, they have the time to try and scale up. We're trying to see how Vici slow this game down from Team WE, because it's 7,000 gold in favor of Team WE, and it seems to just be getting bigger.
So teams with this lead usually start playing a little bit more cute, knowing that they can't really rely on those 50-50s, or the enemy team has been really respective. They start Baron a little bit, less in members. They can actually just do Mystic and Condi initially, and then have Missing and Xie and 957 in lane, so you don't really know if they're doing Baron or not. You make the assumption that they don't have the members to do it. And they can start piling back into the Baron one-on-one, and so once it gets completed, Vici's timing on the buff really gets messed up. Don't know what's been happening, and it's completed. So I would say that's a strategy that's been done before, once by W in the past. I'd expect them to do it if they've been really struggling of playing this Baron game.
I mean, they've even got the Rise Realm Warp as Missing goes in. Looks like the target is Coco. He's got the stopwatch, but his CC locked down. Doesn't get the chance to push a single button on his keyboard as he dies. And now that's a lot of wave clear missing. It's up to Martin to try to get up to the minion wave, but even that he doesn't want to risk against 5 members of WE who push down the tier 2.
That's the thing, no one on Vici's side can walk up to the minion wave anymore. You could say Martin, but if he does, he'll get engaged on. There's too much risk.
Especially with 957 at Meganar. The next minion wave crashes in, and they break down the inhibitor turret. This time, WE have got the decisiveness. Shintai on the side. That's the Blade of the Ruined King. Look at the damage. Even with damage reduction, he goes low and is forced to back out of this one. They did trade a turret as Audi split pushed on the side lane, but the inhib is down, and WE got what they came for.
Very decisive from WE. See what they can do when that lead comes through. Xie and his ulti starting it off on a pick onto Coco. Very well done. Thought they were going to use Rise Realm Warp to jump into the pit. The opposite. Get a flank on towards Coco. And even though he was near his tower, easy dive since no one was near him.
Now, Audi's doing some work here.
Wow.
That's the heal even being used. Flash over the wall. Audi chases it down 1 versus 2. And he finds a kill. Mystic is firing. He does not want to hop over the wall with the Arcane Essence Flux. Arcane Shift. Finally, Shie walks up and locks down the kill, but that's Audi. And Vici are looking at the Baron.
This is interesting. I don't think they can do it. It will take a long time is the worry. And the trip from WE is not a very long one. So for Vici Gaming, taking a little bit of time and trying to figure, wait a minute.
Uh-oh, Hex Flash over the wall. Missing is the target. Sleepy Trouble Bubble misses as Condi escorts his support back out as the blue buff is stolen away and picked up by Martin. Swift using that Pillar of Frost to slow any chase. True Shot Barrage will hit Shintai. Remember, he does not have the Unbreakable Will. That's the Glacial Storm caught by the CC. They're still chasing deep. Teleport out of 957 as they get the kill. And Missing goes back in. You haven't caught Missing. Missing has caught you. A double kill for Mystic as he chases it down. One more, but it's the kill from Coco. He's going to go low as he's on the far side. 957 chasing it down with the adrenaline. Finally, he dies, and Vici are falling apart.
They just found Vici just sitting there in their blue side jungle and start chasing them off. They knew they can get the kill on towards Alistar, and it's just Vici trying to stick around, thinking they can save member after member and falling through. So
WE saying,
plays.
"Damn kids, get off my lawn! Get out of here! Get off my lawn!" Chases, runs him off. Get out of here! You're not welcome here.
That's the next step, though. That's the scary step. You don't expect the man to actually find and catch you. You'd think you'd get away at the very least.
That's a horror film at that point.
It's definitely a horror film.
You're just going for your ball, man.
So he gets him, and then he's like, "Well, you know what? You've been taking a lot of crab apples from my tree, and this is the price you ultimately take."
Are crab apples actually edible?
Yeah, well, I've been eating a lot of crab apples.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I don't think I've ever eaten a crab apple.
They're edible, or at least I would have had a really poor childhood if that was the
Pounds
case.
him on the head with that last crab apple. I mean, you can see the fans. They're excited for Team WE. 27 minutes in, it's 13 kills to 2. And that is a 12,000 gold lead, 26 minutes into the game. WE are chasing down a next turret. Whoa.
It's a lot of people top lane.
Let's ignore that, as Vici sent 4 members top to find 957 and kill him. But that means Vici's base is undefended. Already 1 inhibitor is down, and with a late recall, the next inhibitor turret falls. Though it is a 4 versus 5, WE are still so strong if they can keep Mystic and Shie alive. Turning onto a 2-man knockup, but Shie, he's still chasing it down. The quickness entrance, plus the Glacial Storm. It's just CC as Shie is walking it down along with Mystic. WE have just got the stat advantage. Condi's backing it up as a KT and Rain, it chases it down from the Nexus itself. Stopwatch for Martin. He's trying to outplay this. He's healing up as much as he can, but dies to the damage from Mystic. And WE are closing this out. They take the Realm Warp and find that final kill onto Coco as the minion wave goes on to the Nexus. And WE take the series against Vici.
Get the penguin dab on them. Strong way to end the series. I mean, we were criticizing him in game 1, game 2. A lot of messiness involved, but with that game 3, all of that cast aside, strong early game and a strong completion. WE so much stronger now than they were just moments before.
Yeah, again, they fixed the issue that you presented to them. They need to be decisive. They need to be able to close out the game and take the choice when it is presented to them. A lot of that was missing. Using that the player missing.
Yep.
Using the quickness grand entrance to force those fights. And I don't know what was different about Condi's communication in that game 3, but he was always there whenever he needed to be. He was hovering around bottom lane. He was landing with Glacial Storms. Something clicked between those two, and it shows that this team can be something to be afraid of when they're able to pull it off.
Yep, jungle support duo are definitely much more in tune here. And you know who benefited from that? Mystic.
Oh yeah.
Mystic throughout was able to get so much out of basically the support that was given to him there. His ultimate really was able to clean up a lot of the engagement. Remember when they caught out Coco in the mid lane? That was an excellent play that started from Shie here, but ended with the ultimate from Ezreal. So clean game from them.
And with that, WE take a bow in front of the fans and make their way backstage with the wave to the audience. Finally able to take their second bow in front of the hometown crowd as WE close out the series successfully. Finally, they're able to take the win. Perhaps this could be the momentum start that WE need to kick their engine into gear and start looking for more wins, as they are clearly showing a victorious playstyle when looking like this.
It's going to be a battle within their conference now, because picking up that wins means that they are now 3-10. Means that they're just 1 series behind FunPlus and OMG, 2 series behind, I guess 3 series, behind TOP, which is going to be the 4th place spot, which means that WE, they have a long trip ahead of them, but it's a good first step.
As you've said, in these standings, they are chasing that final spot. 3 wins is all they need to tie up with Snake and TOP, assuming the other 2 teams go even over the course of the next few weeks. But that is WE's last game in cross-conference. Every game that they have right now, every loss that they have, will also add a point to their opposition as well, which, being at the bottom of the standings, they don't want. Because then that gets them that much further away from playoffs. So still, WE, it's not out of their reach just yet. It's not impossible. It's just very difficult. And if they're able to go back to that style, I mean, we saw what happened when they play a late-game teamfight composition and they're able to snowball it out against Vici in Game 2, despite being at a deficit. We saw what happened when they're able to snowball early game in that Game 3, taking control and making decisive plays to end that play. Finally, that's 2 things that they can take home and continue to use against their future teams. But it's still a long journey for this team to go.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, off of those lessons, you got to be able to support your carries, and I think they did a good job at the end of the series being able to do that. I think Mystic and CA, both of them having phenomenal games. I mean, you look towards how that fight's set up for them. It's not like they're making obvious errors. I think that a lot of the plays are made off their back, so it's great to see them being able to set the fights going forward. Now the supportive staff of Condi. Missing, I guess we'll see if Missing starts to play a little bit more often. Can it really just push them going forward? Yeah,
very well could do. Of course, we do have that Rift Herald fight that we saw that enabled WE to snowball throughout the course of the game. And it seemed as though Vici had found a pick. They get the knock-up onto Mystic, but even so, this fight's awfully risky.
And so, yeah, Coco have to burn both summoners, so he was essentially out of the fight, even having that flash. So that's the major takeaway here from WE, is that Coco's not in it. Sure, Audi's pumping out a lot of damage, but then makes it easier for Mystic to go front to back, uses his summoners, all ins on the fight, off the opportunity Condi gave him. So great comms in that one. Ultimately, that's something they should feel proud about.
And I just realized that Martin hunted down Mystic at the end with the Kaisa. After seeing the knockup last breath combo, he used the Killer Instinct to get behind Mystic, who then proceeded to go sideways into his own jungle, not backwards away from the rest of Vici, which is wholly unpredicted. So Mystic still keeping people on their toes. But still, this is Vici looking for team fights, looking for opportunities, but just getting out-executed in these small, minor ways. In Game 2, they had control of the early game. They were able to snowball off of Swift's advantages. In Game 3, they were completely denied that and still tried to snowball off of him. It's a risky gambit, and that's what happens when it doesn't pay off.
Yeah, so that's why for Vici to be going so... It feels like both these teams, when they get leads, it's off the same idea of strong individual players. In your case is Swift and Audi. A lot of time it seems like Vici just rely on that, which is a problem. For Vici, they need to start looking outwards instead of, like, yeah, sure, you can brute force a lot of these fights, but if you're going up against a better team, they won't give it to you if you have the lead, which is why a lot of their games start flipping if they have those advantages.
It's almost like the old EasyHoon factor. We have EasyHoon on the team. We can just wait and let him play a mage. Or you can get outscaled and lose the game as well.
Yeah, and I think this is the opposite problem of them trying to speed things up but not knowing how to do that. So if they have the knowledge, and it comes down to whether or not Coach Rui can instill that with such limited time that they have now. Of course, the coaching changes coming in so late into the split. So that's a major worry for me going forward. I mean, I don't expect too much from this team for this split. So it feels like a long-term deal with the team. Remember, bringing in a lot of the developmental players. That's not a short-term. They're not bringing them saying, you're going to do well in this series, and that's
We're going to get playoffs. You're going to chase it down.
Exactly. That's not realistic. For them, it's about thinking about the long term with those players, and if it works for them going into maybe spring of next split, Demacia Cup even. So for Vici Gaming, it's looking harder and harder this split. It's nice that they're bringing in the developmental players now.
I mean, that being said, we're still seeing some outplays from these players, so there still is plenty of opportunity for them to grow. We know the ceiling is high, they just need to chase it down. We've still got that last fight as well to demonstrate how WE were able to close out that game. And it was the fight around the Baron. It was the chase onto Condi, and then the turn onto Shintai from tracking that ultimate timer.
And take a look at CA coming into the flank as well, because this all started from trailing in the blue buff, where Vici were wholly out of place. And so just running him down, easy from that point forward. I think WE as a team, this is the fight that they want to be able to get for themselves. Vici made it a little bit easier, but if you're a WE fan, rejoice, be, celebrate, chips, anything you have in that fridge. I'm not going to question you. Going back into your conference, there's a lot of hope for the team of being able to make some sort of comeback.
Well, Xie will take our MVP, the birthday boy himself at 6-0-9, despite Mystic snowballing over the course of the laning phase. It was Xie who was able to lock down the victory. Yeah, just the earlier fight we saw with the flank position, his ultimate on top of Coco to nail that down. There are a lot of individual plays he made with his bedhead. He's able to do well for him, so excellent game from him. Yeah, I believe tussled is the word. Disheveled. Sure, yeah. One of them is complimentary and one of them is perhaps not so much. But he did get man of the match, so congratulations, Xie, and of course, happy birthday to you and the WE boys as they do take that victory and close out that series against Vici Gaming. There's still plenty of room for them to grow as time goes on. Raz, got any final thoughts? Ooh, I want to see what WE can go up against the top teams in their groups. When you see WE versus EDG versus Rogue Warriors, those are the obvious ones where you expect and you just cast them aside. But if it happens, then that's where you start really just getting on, buying the tickets for the train. Like we said, there's always a chance. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. We're going to go take a quick break while we get ready for our next match. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. The LPL will be right back.
想要征服他人，必先战胜自己。EDG 的队名就是鞭策我们的动力。